In this video, I'm going to be talking about writing the equation of a sine or cosine function given its graph. So here we have a graph, and we actually have three things we have to decide about this graph. Okay, the first thing we have to decide is what is the amplitude. The amplitude here is the distance from the midline. We can see the middle of this graph is right on the axis, and that's always going to be true for these. At least the ones that you're going to see. And the amplitude is the distance from this midline to the top, which will be the same as the distance from the midline to the bottom. And we can see here that this distance right here is 1. So very easy to see here. So I'm going to type in y equals a in this case, or the front number is 1. In fact, you don't even need to type it because 1 doesn't do anything when you multiply, but you can put a 1 there if you want to. The second thing you need to let me erase this real quick. The second thing you need to decide is this going to be a sine function or is it going to be a cosine function? That's easy to tell because you look at where it starts on the y-axis. This starts at the very top. And we know that if it starts at the top, it must be cosine. If it starts at the midline, it's got to be sine. And if it starts at the bottom, it's also going to be cosine, but the front number will be negative. Okay, this one started on the top, so this one is definitely cosine. So I'm going to type in cosine right there. And now I just need bx in here, right? I need a number in front. X is going to be x, but I need the number that goes in here with x. Now we have a formula for that. This is the hardest part, by the way, but we have a formula for that, and it has to do with the period. If you recall, the period is 2 pi divided by b. And now when we have the equation, oops, there we go. When we have the equation, we have b, we plug in b, and we get the period, right? And we use that to graph. But this is actually backwards because we already have the graph. So we actually don't know what b is. We're going to use the graph to find b so that we can put it back into the equation. So it's kind of reversed of what we do for graphing normally. So the first thing we do here is we have to figure out from the picture what is the period. Now, the period is the distance to make a full cycle. So if we started at the top, to make a full cycle, it's got to go all the way down to the bottom, then all the way back up, and from peak to peak, right here, this distance is the period, okay? Now, you could also use from the bottom to the bottom. Just be careful, especially with sine, because you're going to have to use the midline, right? And if you're going to use a midline, be careful because it has to go up, hit the midline, and I know that hits the midline again, but then it has to go down and hit the midline. So in the sine wave, make sure you go up and to the very top and all the way down to the bottom and then back to the midline. That would be a full cycle. I think cosine's a little easier to see the period because it's peak to peak, so it's kind of easy. And when it's at 0, you can see the period here is 2 pi over 3. Now, I know the period is 2 pi over 3. Oops. So let me take that 2 pi over 3, and I'm going to plug it in right here for period, and I'll be able to use that to find b with a little bit of algebra. So let's go ahead and plug in what I know, which is the period is 2 pi divided by 3. And this one's kind of cool because if you see the tops are already equal, you know the bottoms have to be equal. So I can already tell this is going to be b equals 3. Okay, but not all of them are that way where you can see it like that. So what you can do here is you can, if you have a fraction equal to a fraction, you can cross multiply, right? So I've got 2x times b, which is 2 pi times b, sorry, which is 2 pi b, equals 3 times 2 pi, which is 6 pi. And remember, I'm trying to get b, right? So I got to get rid of this 2 pi. So I'm going to go ahead and divide by 2 pi. Since everything's multiplied, so the opposite function is divide. And here we can see the pi's cancel out. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. It's important to note here, though, in some of these problems, it comes out to a nice number like this. Sometimes you'll have a fraction, and sometimes the pi's don't cancel out, and you have pi as like inside with there with your b, okay, with x as it'll be part of your b, and that's okay. That doesn't mean you did it wrong. Just some of these problems come out where pi cancels, and some of them don't. So keep that in mind. If you do get pi in your b as your answer, don't freak out. It might be right, okay, because they do that a lot too. So anyway, 3 is going to go in right there, and now let's check it here real quick. Can I hit this? Boom. And we got a correct answer. Okay. Again, you don't really need the 1, but you'll notice it doesn't really matter. Okay. And it tells you right here, multiplying by 1 is not necessary when you have 1. So, but whether it's in there or not, it's still going to be marked right because it's correct. Okay. Hopefully that helps.